Solutions from the multiverse. Hey everybody, you're here with your two hosts, Adam Browse and Scott Maupin.
Hey everybody. Oh, I'm a little too hot. Turn myself down there. Hey.
Yeah, calm down.
Hey everybody.
Super
It all
hot.
comes out even in the end, but
Does it?
it does.
Oh, because it's on different channels, so
Yeah,
you can
I
adjust them
I
separately.
rebalance it later.
Nice, I'm drinking my fake coffee.
Dandelion coffee.
Yeah, brought to you by Dandy Blend, your favorite brown, bitter drink that has no caffeine in it.
It doesn't have a lot of competition in that category, I'll be honest.
It's like hot dirt water.
With that number of qualifiers, my its peers go very down.
Yeah, it gets a high score among people who don't like caffeine.
Well,
So
there you go.
are we going to do another? I had an idea. I had a solution that came to me through the portal,
Okay.
through the multiversal portal.
Yeah.
And I'll just tell you the idea.
Do it.
And then I'll tell you a little bit of background and we can kind of take it apart and see if it's stupid or
I'm
good.
game. No, I have no idea where we're going. So
Okay, yeah, where are we going to go? Who knows? All right, step into the portal machine here. So the idea is what I've made this up. So I don't know. I get to name it. Okay, so it's called mean height zoning.
mean height zone.
Mean height zoning.
Okay.
MHZ, I guess. Mean height zoning. And the idea is basically everywhere in every city, there's a height that you can't go above in every zone of the city. So currently, all cities have what would be called fixed height zoning.
Okay.
So San Francisco, it's like 95% of the city is 38 feet, like 3 stories. And then there's certain parts, like 5% is like in Soma and stuff. It goes up to, Salesforce Tower height or whatever.
The giant. Yeah.
So but that's fixed height too. You can't go above probably 1 foot less than Salesforce, whatever Salesforce Tower is. They pushed it
got it
to the limit, And then some cities like New York, they do this weird thing where they like, if they're like, hey, if you plant a bunch of trees or like build a courtyard, you can have 10 more stories. So they kind of horse trade with the heights or whatever. But the whole idea is it's still fixed height zoning, okay? So mean height zoning is a different thing. Mean height zoning is where you say one building is surrounded by a grid, right? So each building has probably 9 buildings around it, across the street, behind it,
All right.
and on either side.
Sure.
If you take the average of all those buildings, you can build on that lot anywhere from that average plus or minus 50%.
Okay.
So that allows people to it allows kind of a more flexible urban tapestry, a kind of more flexible urban.
Yeah, I was going to say, how would that change? I'm having a hard time imagining how does that impact an area? Like what would it look different?
Yeah.
How would it look different?
So if you imagine like a San Francisco neighborhood like we're in right now, where all the buildings are like 3 stories tall, basically all of them are 3 stories tall. The average would be 3 stories.
Right.
So plus or minus 50% would be like 1.5. If you say average up, maybe 5. So if you wanted to, you could build a 5-story building.
Okay.
Currently, that is illegal in San Francisco. It is illegal for you to build a 5-story building because there's fixed height zoning at 3 stories. We're about at the max in this area right here.
Right.
So what it would do is allow for people to build more housing, but to prevent people from building skyscrapers because people don't want like skyscrapers next to their houses. Rightfully so, I think. And a lot of people think. So why is this? So what problem does this solve? Okay, so it solves a bunch of problems. That's the question you meant to ask me, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No,
why is this even a thing? Why are we talking? I don't know what to say about it. It's a very inside baseball, like urban thing. And I'm like an urban guy. So
if like an area starts building, so you've got 3-story buildings now in this area, and then they get approval to get up to 5. If enough buildings in that area get to 5-story, can somebody then go, well, I'm going up to 8 or whatever?
Yep. the city can like bubble up over time,
Okay.
and it can bubble down. Like Detroit has shrunk a whole lot, so
Okay.
it could actually shrink too. Sometimes like a billionaire wants to like build a 1-story house in like around a bunch of skyscrapers. That wouldn't be allowed either. You know, you have to build
I've never heard of
within
that.
it happens. Yeah.
That would seem like a terrible. I would hate to live in a 1-story house surrounded by. You'd be like, well, I'm a billionaire.
It's like the movie Up, right?
Everybody will look down on me.
That's true. That's true. But some people do it. Some people do it.
They do crazy stuff, of course.
Yeah. Or it's like maybe it's not a 1-story building, but yeah, they'll build a tiny house or a tiny building where there's a bunch of tall buildings, and it's just weird.
To be able to be like, I have the status and money to be able to plunk a regular housey house in the middle of the city where it shouldn't be.
Or some like modern, super modern cool thing, and they're like, I want this. But it's really tiny and not, you know, and it's right in the middle of a downtown where it's like, no, there's a premium on space. You actually have to build like at least close to the height of things around you. So this would kind of help with that too. That's not as big of a problem. The bigger problem we have is, you know, we're short on housing in the country.
Yes,
and
sure.
And the biggest reason why we're short on housing is because of the NIMBY YIMBY battle. The not in my backyard and the yes in my backyard people are just at each other's throats. I mean, it's really pretty vicious.
So the not in my backyard people would be thinking, I don't want housing near me.
The not in my backyard people are like, I like my neighborhood the way it is. I don't, and we have regulations that make it that way. If
there are rules, we follow our rules. Yes. I like the rules. Keep the rules.
Right.
Those are the NIMBYs.
Those are the NIMBYs, and they don't want, you know, they don't want skyscrapers to be built in their neighborhood. That's their basic
thing.
But anyways, they get maligned for being like, you know, backwards and racist and kind of, I got mine, Jack. I moved here 30 years ago, so I got mine now and screw everybody else. Yep. So they get maligned that way. But I've met a lot of NIMBYs. I know NIMBYs. I understand. And what I think it really boils down to is they don't want a skyscraper to go up next to their house. And I think that's a good thing to not happen. So when I pitched this to NIMBYs at this NIMBY meeting I went to. I like walked in. It was weird because I'm more of a
is it identified as such, or how?
They call it a neighborhood association meeting, which just means a NIMBY meeting.
We're the rules meeting for the rules people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's rules. It's also just they will make new rules if it means to keep their neighborhood.
If you walked in and you were like, you know how we're all NIMBYs? Do you think they would go, yes?
Oh, they wouldn't like that.
No,
it's
right.
like hipsters. Yeah, they don't. It's like a hipster doesn't like to be called a hipster. Same thing. NIMBYs don't like to be called NIMBYs. They're like, no, I'm very open-minded.
I would like to call us NIMBYs, and they're like, not in my.
Literally.
That term is not allowed in my backyard. Yeah. I will thank you to leave now, Mr. Browse.
They don't even notice the irony. Yeah. So I went to this meeting and I said, I was just, you know, it was just people chit chatting, you know, cucumber sandwiches or whatever, you know, and I was like, you know, hey, I wore like a Patagonia and I was like, I own my condo and I love this neighborhood the way it is, you know, which I do, you know, I'm kind of, you know, anyways, I can kind of split the difference between the NIMBYs and the YIMBYs like this idea does. And so I went to there and I said to one of the couple people, I was like, what do you guys think? What do you think about this idea? Like, what if we said, you know, mean height zoning? Like, what if it was 50% plus or minus the average of buildings around it? And they said, that is a great idea. Because they all know that their kids aren't going to be able to live in this city. Like, they all know that there's costs to limiting all the housing to nothing. Like, they do want to be able to allow common sense, like rational buildings to be built,
right?
But they just are totally against the like towers. You know?
They don't want a loophole to be exploited by some company who's like, bingo, we're going up to 130 stories right next to your 3-story house.
Exactly, and they see that on the landscape. You know, you look at some of these buildings.
Even though you surround that 3-story house with a bunch of 130-story skyscrapers, I mean, you're living like a billionaire then.
Yeah, you're living like a billionaire. Lie.
No, but I get that. So if you could guarantee them that there are strict limits on the increase.
Right. If you live in a small
area, you get
area,
more people on board. You get more YIMBYs out of NIMBYs.
Well, so the NIMBYs, this is what they said. They said They said, that's a great idea. The YIMBYs will never go for it.
Oh,
They
no.
want towers. They want rabid, Wild West, libertarian, no zoning laws. Everyone just build, baby, build.
So they're saying
That's what their perception of the YIMBYs were.
of course we would be reasonable, but they are never going to be reasonable,
Yeah.
so we're not going to have to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. So they
Okay,
said that's
I
a
see.
great idea, but they would never go for it. So then I was like, that is not what I thought you would say. Like, I'm really happy they said that, because that was like saying they actually liked the idea. Because to me, I'm basically YIMBY. Like, I'm like, let's build more house. Let's like really build a lot more housing.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't like towers, but I like building a lot more taller buildings, like 8, like Paris, like 6, 8, 10-story buildings are really beautiful, I think. Anyways, so then I was like, okay, well, I went and hung with the YIMBYs, because I hang out with them, like, I don't know, every couple months I'll go to like a YIMBY meeting.
The YIMBY meeting?
Yeah, and I'll go to the YIMBY meeting. And,
I mean, I feel like
Please,
I need to be
cut in.
fair.
Yeah.
What's an example of a YIMBY meeting?
It's an actual organization. YIMBY is the organization.
Oh, really?
And they have
so
like organizing meetings.
if you call them YIMBYs, they're like yes.
They have avocados in their Twitter name descriptions.
Okay.
So if you ever see an avocado in a San Francisco, I think it's countrywide, but New York or San Francisco, if you see an avocado, that's a millennial YIMBY ironically saying the inside joke that it's very deep, actually. It's like, so this Australian billionaire guy said, young people can't afford houses because they're eating too many avocado toasts.
Perfect accent work.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
So bad. But so that's obviously insane. Like avocado toast is not the reason why. Giant structural,
but that I've heard
economic
the
problems.
avocado toast thing.
So these millennial YIMBYs were like, F that guy. But then they embraced it and they were like, yeah, we're eating avocado toasts, but we also want to own homes. And so they put avocados in their name tag. So that's how you know it's a YIMBY. They have an avocado.
Okay.
Anyways, so now everyone really knows about YIMBY. I've just outed a bunch of YIMBYs on Twitter. No, they want you to know that they're YIMBYs.
They do. They're yes.
Yeah,
they're YIMBYs.
Yep. They're public. So I went to this meeting. I'm in the meeting and I say the same thing. I say, hey, what do you guys, what do you guys think? Like, what if we proposed, mean height zoning, 50% average buildings, 50% higher, lower, and that became the zoning code for the whole city? Because you don't need it. You don't need to have different laws for different parts then. You can just have that for the whole city. Right. You could even have it for the whole state. You could even have it for the whole country. You could pass, I mean, it would be crazy, but you could, because short places would stay short and tall places could go taller. And things could migrate. Anyways, and they said, that's a great idea. The NIMBYs will go for it. The NIMBYs want nothing. They were like, the NIMBYs want absolutely no change.
Hatfields and McCoys here. It. They're just eternally at war.
That's what I'm saying. They're like the Butter Battle Book.
The
Butter Battle Book? Isn't that Dr. Seuss? Or they have the butter. One butters their bread on the top, and one butters their bread on the bottom, and never twain shall meet.
I don't know this.
Oh my God, your Dr. Seuss knowledge is deeply.
I was saying Hatfields McCoys. I don't know this I don't know this Dr. Seuss reference.
It's like Capulet Montesquieu, Jets and Sharks, Butter Battle Book.
Battle Book.
Yeah, the butter on top, butter on bottom.
Classic.
Gotta
Butter
check it
Battle
out.
Book.
It's a commentary on the Cold War.
I'm going to try and do it. I'll try and slip it in later this episode somewhere.
Okay, good.
I'll see if I can use it correctly.
I doubt it.
Don't have faith in me. I can do it. I'll do it.
You can do it. So that was the crazy thing. They responded the same way as the NIMBYs responded. They said, we love the idea. And they weren't just saying, oh, we love it because, we're just trying to be polite to you. They were like, that's a great idea. Yeah, that would build a lot more housing. That would be really nice. But the NIMBYs will never go for it. So what this shows is the clear kind of, they're both projecting this like boogeyman onto the other person and saying, oh, the YIMBYs, they just want 800, 100-story glass towers. And the YIMBYs they think the NIMBYs are, I don't want any, they want nothing. They refuse to have anything. They want the buildings to be torn down or something. And it's just insane. It's stupid. They actually can compromise, but you have to give them an idea like this one that they both agree with.
Right. I mean, it's the classic case of we're having a duel and neither one of us wants to have this duel, but nobody wants to be the first person to put down their gun so that they can end it.
And no one's ever heard this idea either. I mean, it could just be that they're just, anyway,
I've never heard
that's where we're making
mean
the podcast.
Height. Mean height zone?
Mean height zoning
Nice.
instead of fixed height zoning, which is what we have already.
Now, can I devil's advocate a little bit?
Oh my God.
What if some evil billionaire wants to take the tallest building in the city and go, all right, 1.5 times right now, I'm going to build a crazy super high.
Well, he can only do the average of the buildings around
Oh,
it.
I guess so. You
Yeah.
can't just double the...
So like the Salesforce Tower is way bigger than anything else.
It
So
is.
it may pull up the average a little bit, but it doesn't make it, you know what I mean?
It doesn't give you that
Yeah.
ability to just skyrocket.
right.
Okay.
And next to Salesforce Tower, you might be able to build a building kind of like the height of the Millennium Tower, which is a little bit shorter than the Salesforce Tower. So in a way, we're almost kind of already following it naturally. But this would codify it so you could have this sort of smooth.
What if, now I know San Francisco might be strange because it's earthquake zone. Is that a factor in
San Francisco,
what the limit is already? I guess
no,
not.
It used to be. It used to be like, oh shit, the buildings will fall down. But now they have this sophisticated, engineering stuff where
buildings never fall down.
I'm sure some of them fall down, but they do these weird like ballasts and they drill down to the bedrock and they do all this interesting stuff to protect.
It does seem like, the technology is always advancing, especially in how to make better, longer lasting or more economical structures, whatever.
Right. So in San Francisco, the whole point of mean height zoning would not be to have a whole bunch of really tall earthquake, prone buildings.
Sure.
The point would be to take the 95% of the city that it's illegal to go above 3 stories and allow for some 5-story buildings to be built. Like that's the main goal.
Because you never rebuild the entire chunk at once, but when it's being rebuilt piece by piece, now the limit would be like,
kind of move,
maybe we could put this into a high person housing area where we could solve an issue that's already here in a bigger way than we could before.
Yeah. One thing about this that kind of goes back to like what this podcast is about is actually, if you look at, I was just listening to an episode of 99% Invisible. It's fantastic.
Right.
I'm Roman Mars.
Good.
Yeah, there you go, Roman Mars. He does this great podcast, and there's an episode called The Missing Middle. It came out maybe in May, a couple months ago. Fantastic urban, it's a design podcast, 99% Invisible, and it is great. I recommend it to everyone. And in that episode, in all their episodes, they talk about problems or kind of histories and things, but they always talk about like problems. And when they talk about problems, they just talk about problems the whole time. So if you listen to that episode, The Missing Middle, which is the middle between short buildings and tall buildings. So there's if you look at American cities, it's like single family suburbs. And then it's just like downtown. It goes really tall. And there's no middle ground. And those middle height buildings are actually really desirable. Like those are the cities, those are like brownstones in Brooklyn, Parisian, flats. Like those are the things that people who want to live in cities want to live in those buildings. But American zoning laws, it's like illegalize the missing middle. So, but anyways, you listen to that podcast, it's just all the problem, and they don't present a single solution except we should build more of those. But it's illegal to build more of those.
That's not a viable solution. But changing the zoning laws gradually through like a thing that can scale up on its own and sort of contains but allows for growth at the same time would do that.
It would allow the missing middle to emerge. Yeah. So from a design perspective, you'd like solve this, what is literally like a holy grail in urban design, is how do we get the missing middle to be built in American cities? Mean height zoning would do that.
Yeah.
So it would solve the NIMBY-YIMBY debate. It would solve, hopefully somewhat over time, would solve the housing crisis. It would also make cities more livable and beautiful as this missing middle got built. And I think it would also help the climate, because if more people live in dense, multi-use, transit-oriented cities and neighborhoods, then fewer
little
cars
commuting. Less commuting. Fewer emissions.
Right. So there's like a lot of like downstream effects from it, but it's a really simple law. It literally is like 20 words, buildings can be the average, plus or minus 50% of the build. It's such a simple law, and it replaces all zoning height restrictions because you don't really need any of them after you have that.
Right.
You could add little thing here or there, whatever, but
it sounds like the not simple part of it is getting the YIMBYs and the NIMBYs to trust each other enough to like extend the hand and enact it
Right.
together to be,
Right.
you know, to be like, you're not gonna screw me at the last minute here and flip it over.
It would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But you were saying that politically it would be hard to get that conversation started because they already are so at each other's throats. They've already built each other into these boogeymen.
You would have to. It feels like you would have to create a meeting of a new association where
I'd be like
both
the
groups
Desmond
feel
Tutu.
welcome.
Yeah, I'd be like the Desmond Tutu of the NIMBYs and YIMBYs. Maybe we could get. Oh no, he passed away. Damn, I thought we could get Desmond Tutu himself.
Just ring him up on the phone.
Yeah, and that'd be like truth and consequences. Come on. Or what was it called? Truth and Reconciliation. Truth and Reconciliation. Desmond Tutu, South Africa.
I definitely believe you. I don't have this reference in my head though. All my South African knowledge, I think, comes through Nelson Mandela, and I'm woefully under Desmond Tutu'd.
Oh yes, you gotta go. You gotta, Tutu he's a worthwhile Christian scholar and global figure. So yeah. 99% Invisible, all of their podcasts, they talk about the problems. The point of this podcast is we talk about solutions and solutions nobody's heard of that are just new, because that's what we need. We need a lot more new. And if we're wrong, that's fine. If people are listening right now and they say, Midnight Zoning will never work because I know more about this than either of you, because you probably do, because I don't know very much really about this, then, let's start a conversation.
I mean, that's the point is, right, yeah, start a conversation, create a starting point, and then somebody goes, well, here's how you would run into a problem here, there, and the other place. So here's here's the tweaks 1, 2, and 3 that you would have to do. And then you go with, you iterate, right? That's what you do. You start with a skateboard and then you just continue to build it into a rocket ship.
That's right.
To use an analogy.
That's right. So yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I think you could barter peace between the YIMBYs and the NIMBYs and end the butter battle book. I couldn't figure. I could feel that we were wrapping up, but I couldn't find a way to shoehorn it in. But I refused to go down without an attempt.
Throwback.
Am I using that right?
Dr.
I'm
Seuss
using that right.
Throwback.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your favorite Dr. Seuss book?
Oh, it's easily Fox and Socks. Easily.
Oh,
I'm a big Fox and Socks head.
That's cool.
I love that one. How about yourself?
Cool. Bartholomew Cubbins and the 500 Hats.
Okay.
It's a super underrepresented one.
Yeah, I was gonna say we might have had different Dr. Seuss libraries because I'm not familiar with yours.
I don't know Fox and Socks.
Oh, Fox
I've
and
never
Socks is
even
great.
heard of it.
It's a giant book of tongue twisters. So memorizing it or being able to like speed through it was a point of pride at one point when I was a kid, to be like, oh, I can, when the Tweedlebeetles battle with their paddles in the puddle and the noodling poodle in a bottle full of muddle, this is what we call it, that sort of thing. But yeah, that lots of Fox and Socks is stuck in my head forever, I think.
Fox and Socks. I'm going to definitely pick that up.
It's a good one.
That's
it's a good one. I got to find Mr. 500 Hats. Bartholomew?
Oh, yeah. Bartholomew Cubbins and the 500 Hats.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's all about iteration. It's about iterating and how the hats keep getting better and better. That's
got to be where you look at, when you hear solutions like this, you got to not just go like, oh, it's not going to work because of that. You go, oh, what if it did work? What would it look like? How would we change it? Or
you're saying that, what does that spark for me? Oh, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, another interesting thing about this is people think, when people first hear this idea, I talked to, 5 or 10 people about this idea, and people often say like, oh, that's really like weird and new. It actually isn't, because San Francisco already has mean building setbacks. So
explain what that means.
That means like if you're going to build a new building and your neighbor's house is like forward closer to the street and your other neighbor is like pulled back from the street, they're set back further, then you have to be in the average between them.
You can't jut up up on the street or
go back to the
give
other
yourself
neighbor.
A huge lawn.
Yep. You can't do it. You have to do the average.
So we're just doing the vertical of a thing that's already working horizontally.
Working perfectly horizontally. Yeah. So it's not new. It's not totally new, like out of left field. It's the thing we're already doing in one plane. We just turn it upright. They don't do the plus or minus 50% thing because they're trying to make the street be this smooth, sort of sinuous. The eaves and stuff should all be sort of smooth. They don't want it like choppy. But with the height thing, you want to give people a little bit of range. What if they want a peaked roof, or what if they want, whatever.
Right.
So you give them the plus or minus the 50%. Round up. I think round up, but
yeah, or figure it out in practice. You're like, what do you think what do we do when
it
it's
gives
in the
them
middle?
freedom. It gives them the ability to make choices. And sure, it doesn't say you can just do anything, because then they'll just do what capitalism says, which is to like build the tallest possible building. It's
be a total
stupid, right?
Jerk about it. Yeah.
Right. So you can't just say do anything, but you also can't. This fixed height thing is like so like 20th century, and we're in the 21st century.
It does feel, it does.
Yeah.
It does feel a bit antiquated for sure.
Yeah. You wouldn't even have to do the rounding to story. You could literally just do the feet, and then do exactly plus or minus 50% the average feet.
Oh yeah.
And then you wouldn't even need to say how many stories it was, so you wouldn't have to do any rounding, which I think there'd be a huge political battle over, should we round up or round down, right? So let's get rid of that at the outset.
There's got to be a battle over something.
Oh,
so
yeah,
we gotta pick something minute to fight over. It might as well be that.
The Jets and the Sharks will never stop.
The butter battle book continues.
Keeps going.
Unlimited pages.
Yeah.
Dr. Seuss, known for his long, unending books.
Yes, like Charles Dickens, Herman Melville, Dr. Seuss,
Tolstoy, Seuss.
We should discuss Seuss.
Tolkien. We're now a Dr. Seuss podcast.
We're switching.
Seuss from the multiverse.
That's right. Oh yes, SFM, Seuss from the multiverse, new brand. All right, I think we covered it.
I think so.
We'll
I understand it now, and I'm on board with you. It makes sense.
Let's see what our audience see if our audience can eviscerate it.
Absolutely,
that'd be great. All right, thanks, Scott.
Thanks for another one, and until next time.
Yep.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.